it's Sarah here. Welcome to a short tutorial video on pigeon pose. Now there are quite a few variations of pigeon pose that I'm going to go through, so you will need a few bits and pieces. Firstly, a chair, yoga mat, blanket and a bolster or a similar shaped cushion would be useful as well. So I'll give you a moment to grab those and then I will see you on them. Right, okay, so I'm going to show you the basic pose first of all, and then I'll go through the different variations. Now, there is not one better variation than the other. Please remember that, okay? Just go for the variation that works for your body on any particular day, and that is the best variation for you. So let's start with prone pigeon. So this is probably the most familiar out of them, apart from supine pigeon, of course. We'll start on all fours, and then you're going to slide your right knee towards your right hand. Now you can of course come from downward dog as well. Okay, you can step forward, you have that option. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we'll come in from tabletop. So slide your right knee towards your right wrist and then walk your right foot as far forward as it can comfortably go. Now please do not use your hand. Let your foot go where it naturally wants to go. The problem with forcing everything forward, you're taking the stretch out of your current mobility and flexibility, okay? And it's not very helpful. It's much more helpful to allow your body to work within its happy range, and then, you know, over time you'll gradually improve your flexibility and mobility. So once you're here, flex that right foot, so draw the toes towards the kneecap, and then walk your left toes behind you as far as they want to go. Now you're trying to soften both sit bones towards the floor, and you need to try and keep your pelvis as level as possible. So it's quite handy sometimes, especially when you're learning the pose, to do it by a mirror, and then you can have a look at what on earth is going on behind you, because sometimes what we think is going on is not what's actually going on. So this is one variation where we're on the fingertips. You can push the fingertips down, wrap the backs of the upper arms towards one another, and then you're going to get a beautiful kind of mini back bend here, plus a beautiful stretch for your hips. So another variation is to come over and down towards the floor with your torso. And then we breathe and hold the stretch here. So another tip that I like to give you is that while you're holding this position with the front hip, which is our right hip in this case, you're getting a sense of hugging it back, and then with your left hip, the back hip, you're softening it down towards the floor. So if you time that action with every inhale, and then exhale, soften. So inhale, hug the right hip back, drop the left hip down, exhale, soften. Then you can use your breath to get deeper into the pose. All right, so let's come up. So walk up to the hands, and then you just simply slide back. If you're coming into dog, curl the back toes under and step back into down dog. And then we'll try the other side. So slide the left knee towards the left hand, you walk in, so you'll see me walk in this side. I'm going to flex my foot, and then I'm going to caterpillar. I'm just going to come slightly further forward so I don't keep hitting my bolster. I'm going to caterpillar my right toes behind me, and then I'm going to stay up for a couple of breaths or two. See if I can start hugging my left hip back in space this time, dropping my right hip down. And I can stay up or I can bring myself down. All right, let's take one more breath and then I can go into the variation. So that's prone pigeon, one of the main variations. Second variation is to do it standing up. So this is actually a balance, quite a nice balance. It really does open the hip, and one that is kind of connected with tree pose as well. But I'll just run through it quickly. So if you stand up with me, we'll place the weight in our left foot, and then you're going to bring the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Okay, square your hips up as best you can. Oops. If you come out, don't worry. And then we're going to hinge back. Okay, so we're hinging back. Hands are in prayer, that's one variation, or to be honest, you can just pop your hands wherever they feel comfortable. Push your hips back as much as you can. Press your right knee towards the floor, that will help open the hip out, and squeeze the left butt cheek in. All right, come out, let's try that on the other side. So your right foot's on the floor. Left foot is on the knee now, and then we're squeezing the right hip in to wake up those glute muscles so that we can hinge back and we can get a nice hip stretch. And the other side. All right, super job. And then come out of it. For our next variation, chair pigeon. Alright, so you come to a comfortable seat on the chair. Make sure that both feet can come on the floor. And then let's bring the left ankle up first of all. Both sit bones are on the floor. You're pulling back with the left, dropping with the right, and then we're coming forward. Getting a stretch in the outer left hip. Change size. So right ankle, and remember to flex the foot, remember. So it's almost like you're pulling the little toe side of the foot up towards the outer knee. It just helps you get a better stretch in the outer hip. And this is the end of the day, this is all we want. We want a really good hip stretch. Okay, come out. So we can do a seated version on the floor as well, and then we'll finish off with the supine version. So the seated version, just come into a comfortable seat. The hands are behind you for support, your knees are bent, and then bring the right ankle on top of the left knee, flex the right foot, and then you push forward to get the stretch. So for this variation, you need to play around with where your feet are. So where your left foot is and where your hands are, okay? And then you'll find your perfect position for getting that nice stretch in the outer right hip. Okay, let's swap. So left ankle on top of the right knee, and then we're playing about a bit, finding that position that works, and then pushing forward to get the stretch. All right, super job. Right, last variation, supine pigeon. This is actually my favourite out of all of them, I think. So bring yourself down onto the floor, and we're going to go on the right side first. So pick up the right foot, take it over the left knee, and actively push the right knee away so that you'll feel your pelvis kind of settle into the floor. Now, with this variation, you want to be careful that you do not curl your tailbone off the floor. You want it flush on the mat. So take a moment to make sure that your pubic bone feels in line with the hips, because that's one little indicator that your pelvis is nice and neutral, and you should find that you have a gap for your hand underneath your lower back. So from there you can actually stay here. This is one variation of the supine pigeon shape. Otherwise you can pick the left foot off the floor, but again, check your tailbone stays on, and you can hug either behind the left thigh on top of the left shin. Whatever variation, check you're not scrunching your shoulders, okay? I see it a lot in classes that we're so focused on wanting to do this variation. Tailbone comes off the floor, shoulders come up to the ear. So upper body stays relaxed, tailbone stays on the floor, and then you get a really, really good, beautiful stretch for the hip. Okay, let's try the other side. So left ankle on top of right knee, push the left knee away, check your pelvis, and then pick the right foot off the floor, hug behind the thigh on top of the shin, shoulders are soft, breath is soft. Alright, and come out. Okay, so to finish off, I want to go back to the prone pigeon and just offer a few little props that might help make the pose a little bit more comfortable. The first is a bolster. So you can actually get into it so that you bring the side you're bending, the knee you're bending, on top of the bolster. That just gives you a little bit more space. So if you find when you come into prone pigeon that you feel really wonky, try this variation, because it can feel a little bit more comfortable. Another way you can do it, and one that's quite useful for if you're in a class, so I'll turn around so you can see me, is that you're in the position, and again, if you feel a bit wonky, or if your butt is just not softening towards the floor in the way that you want, stick a blanket underneath, and that will give you something to rest on, and that will help your hips to soften and stretch out. Problem with hips, if they're hanging in midair, they tend to not release as well. So you need to make sure that the hips are kind of resting on something, and then they'll let go. Okay, so that concludes your tutorial on pigeon pose. I probably haven't covered all of the variations, but I hope you got enough to play around with for now. And I look forward to seeing you next time.